Brian Baker. So welcome to Cinémoi and our show INNERview. I'm Daphna Edwards-Ziman. I know we've met before, and I'm so happy that you're here with us. This show is dedicated to talk about a great woman, somebody that the whole world reveres, somebody who, particularly at this time, is so important because she lived with such courage, with so much innovation. She was the first biggest global African-American star who not only cherished people and innovation in her performance, but also she never forgot who she was. And she fought for civil rights, she fought against discrimination, and at the same time, she fought against the Nazis. She conquered the world not only with her performance abilities and her talent, but with her heart. And she adopted children from all over the world because she believed in a global, culturally diverse family. And you, Brian, you were born on her birthday, and you are her son, and she chose you in an orphanage because you were born in her birthday and because you were smiling at her. And she felt an immediate connection, an immediate love for you. Can you please tell us what it was like to grow up in the arms of such a magnificent woman?
Well, it was a very extraordinary thing and a very ordinary thing in the same time, because I grew up with my brothers and sisters, so we were like a big family, like a big Italian family, for instance, and our mother was like the mama at the house, so taking care and cooking when she was there, because sometimes she was away, she was abroad, and we were missing her. But as we were a big family, we were like in a kindergarten, so we were always playing and not so much thinking of her absence, the fact that she was doing a show tour in France or in foreign countries. And finally, she was doing and loving us as she could. I mean, it's not easy to be a mother when you have first a big family, so you have to take care of everybody, and when you are away half time. So it was a very strange, let's say, childhood, but very happy, especially with my brothers and sisters. We were all the time playing in the castle or in the gardens of the castle. We were watching TV, film, TV, American TV film, like westerns and film like that. So then after that, we were playing in around the castle, playing to the cowboys and the Indians. So it was fun, and when our mother was there, it was even better.
Brian, one of the things that you told me that really touched my heart is how when you found out that your mother was dancing and performing, you asked her about it, and she said to you, "Oh, no, 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 I'm your mama. This is not me. This is somebody else." And so, because she didn't want to involve you in that, she wanted to be just a mom for you. Can you please tell me about that incident?
My mother was very much protective, and she didn't want us to try or to start an artistic career. She was thinking that it was too dangerous. We shouldn't try to learn and and even to think about being an artist, because she was saying she in her life she has seen too much big artists without luck, without money, despair, and sometimes people who had more talents than her. So she was saying the show business in general is not fair. It's a part of luck, of part of fate, part of meetings at the good moment, a good place. And she say I was lucky, even if she has worked a lot and she had talent and energy. But she was thinking she had a good fate. So when we could see her on TV dancing Charleston in the roaring 20s time, we were saying, "Oh, Mama, come here. You have to see yourself when you were younger as a dancer and more or less dressed, by the way." She was saying, "No, no, what is this?" We were saying, "It's you on TV dancing with a banana skirt, as a Charleston in Paris." And she was saying, "No, no, this the dancer is not me. I'm your mother, and I'm not this dancer." And we were saying, "But Mama, it's obvious that it's you when you are younger." And she was saying, "No, this lady is a dancer, and I am your mother. It's not the same thing." And she was desperately trying to cut off the TV, and we were laughing, but finally she was explaining that as a mother, she has nothing to do with this young woman who was another woman, another Joséphine Baker. And we didn't understand at that time. We were saying, Mama doesn't want to recognize the facts. But later on, we thought, in fact, she was right, because it was not the same woman.
Of
In
course
this
not.
TV, the young dancer, Joséphine Baker, was not the same woman that our mother. So, in a certain way, she was right.
So obviously, she was an incredible mother. And you, all of your brothers and sisters are very close, right?
Uh, yes, all the family is very close, and it's the first question who is asked to us in general by the people, by the media, by the journalists. Everybody is asking, mm, in general, this question: is the family still close? And it's the case. We as a family is very united, and even the second generation, and now there is a third generation arriving. All the family is very close, and in fact, this question means indirectly, has Joséphine Baker succeeded in creating her rainbow tribe? Finally, that's the second question. In fact, when people ask us, "Are you close, a close family?" That means, has Josephine Baker succeeded or not? And she has, because we have very close family, and we are all in contact, even if some of us are abroad, like Jari, my brother is living in New York City. One of my brother, Kofi, from Ivory Coast, lived in Argentina, in Buenos Aires. My sister Lina lives in Venice, Italy. Two of my brothers are living in Monte Carlo. One in the countryside near Lyon, the city of Lyon. And the main part of the family, five of us, are living in Paris and the suburb of Paris. So, of course, those who are in France, we can meet and see each other more often. But even those who are in foreign countries are in contact with us, and sometimes they come visit us, and anyway we are in contact by phone, by internet, by Zoom, by any by letters sometimes. So it's a big united family, and my mother would be very happy to see that.
But Brian, I wanted to ask you, because you were talking about Jerry, you know, you had all different cultures and all different religions. How did your mother give pride to each child with their own culture, with their own history and in you know and family history and all of that?
My mother, when we were kids, she used to take each of us to, when she was going in the original country of one of us, she was taking every one of us to back to his country, born country, in where we were born. So we could, as a kid, we could see, visit, and have, and she was so watching and teaching the culture, and we were going in the churches or the different religious place, or different like temples or churches or mosque or etc., and synagogue for Moses. So we had a good idea, and we were growing up like that. So we were going different times in our original country, and we couldn't see and learn about our countries and about, let's say, original way of living, and for the French and for the European one, she say, you have to go. We are living in France, so you can go to churches. Or Jarry, who is Protestant, he could go in a temple. And when she could, at the castle, she took some teachers who were staying for a while, like for Moses, it was a rabbin from the area, the neighborhood area, and who was coming sometimes to learn and to teach to Moses his religion. For me, it was
Wow.
somebody, a teacher from Egypt, who learned me part of the language and the prayer. But as a kid, I didn't want really to pray, and I didn't want to be on my knees and to pray in the direction of La Mecque, the Mecque, uh,
Mecca.
and 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 yes, because I was saying, oh, I don't want to be on my knees and to pray like that. And this poor teacher, he had a problem with me because I was saying, well, in some religions, I don't like this way that, well, you have to put yourself on the floor and pray God. So I'm not religious. So I decided not to pray, not to believe, and I say, well, when I will be a greater, an adult, I will see what I will do.
Yeah, and but your mother, what do you, she was very spiritual because
Yeah,
obviously she
my,
followed a
my
very, you
yes,
know,
my mother was originally from almost, I think, a Baptist family. So finally, she was believing in God, but she was always saying to us, "Well, you have to know about your original religions." But in fact, we all we all believe in the same God, but it's different words, different ways, but it's the same God. I believe in God and I pray when I feel like praying. So sometimes it could be in a church, but she was telling us in general, when I feel praying, it's not always in a church, it's when I feel it. So it can be in my bedroom, it can be in on stage, so it happened. It can be in a plane. And then I was saying to her, in a plane, because you are afraid to die in the plane. And she was saying, no, no, I'm not praying like some because I'm afraid of a crash. Nothing to do with that. It happened in a plane because I felt like praying at this moment.
So, Brian, I wanted to ask you something. You know, your mother obviously wrote a book about your mother, and you showed me some unbelievable pictures. But your mother stood up with Martin Luther King, the only woman, to actually call people to unite and stop racism. But she also was working very diligently with the resistance against the Nazis. Are there very specific stories that you've been told that you remember about her heroism? Because she was truly a hero.
Especially at the time of the Second World War, my mother directly decided when the Germans and the Nazis were occupying France, she decided to stop singing in France, in the north of France, because at the beginning it was the north of France who was occupied and not the south. So she went to a castle in the south of France. She took with her some friends who were Jewish, who were socialists or communists, because they could have big problems too, and some people that she knew that they were resistant. So she told them, you are going to be safe in the castle because actually the German cannot go beyond the line of a certain line of demarcation, a certain line the France was cut in two. And I will have time to give you some papers to leave France before the German will occupy the second part, the south of France. You will have the time to go in Portugal, to go in Morocco, in Algeria. Some of them could arrive to United States. So she saved a lot of people, even communist people, because even if she was not communist, she was really for the Gaullist, and but she was saying the communists are fighting against the Nazi, so we are working together to beat the Nazi. That's the more important thing, and we will arrive to that, and we will beat the fascists too. And as she had a lot of contacts in Italy and some in Germany too, because she was singing in the Roaring Twenties in Germany, in Berlin, and in Austria, and in Italy. And she met, when she was young, she met Mussolini once in the 20s in Italy, in the embassy, and she had a lot of contacts there. They were thinking that my mother was still a fan of Mussolini. and she let them think that. But when she saw that Mussolini was going in the same direction as the Germans and the Nazi, she played let's say you say double cross or double game, and she was taking the more informations that she could, and she was giving those information to the French resistance and to the Alliés, so the Alliés, American,
And
Canadian,
yeah.
English, and she was like a spy, in fact. And she was having sometimes some secret documents were in a musical partition, musical notes, and and she was going in different countries with different messages, and then you have to read those musical notes, but in fact it was behind that, it was secret messages. So she was doing
Wow.
that.
Yeah, your mother was a humanist and somebody who really, even today and throughout history, and that's why we're so excited to premiere the movie, because we believe that heroes like her are missing in our world today. And she's such an incredible example that people want to follow, people want to be inspired by, because we all need it so much today.
I have to thank you, Daphna, for the memory for in the memory of my mother that you say those words, and I would like to share with you and everybody in the USA or in the world a message of tolerance, open mind, universal brotherhood that my mother she was teaching us those values, and now it's for our family it's normal, it's usual to be like that. And actually I think the world, the entire world need to be more united, and there is some terrible things still arriving in this world. So and with war and violence and racism, anti-Semitism, integrism, terrorism. So I want to give this message of peace, of course, love. Anyway, my mother was always saying, I like those two words created by the hippies in the 60s, peace and love. Make love, not war. She was saying, I like that. Even if I think, even if I think that they are sometimes dressed like very strangely, and she didn't want us to be dressed like that, but we were saying, yes, we want to be dressed with shirts with flower, to have long hairs, and she was saying, yes, and I don't want you to make love anywhere like them. And we are saying, yeah, but that we are young. You have been young, Mama. Yes, but I'm your mother. I don't want you to have problem, and I don't want you to be drug addict. And we are saying, but no, we are not. Yes, but some in Woodstock, etc. I could see that some are taking drugs. I'm afraid of that, but I like their message. I like peace and love, make love and not war. That's I'm really with them for that. And I will end by something is that my mother, before she left us, she knew that our family will be united, and she will, and she knew that she had one, because when we were doing something wrong, like breaking a mirror or doing something when we were kids, we were supposed to the one was the guilty one was supposed to be punished, but we were never saying who was guilty, never. And she was always very, not mad, but angry, and saying, I want to know who has done this wrong thing. And we were saying, not me, not me, not me, not me. But you know, it's one of you. Yes, well, I will punish all of you. Okay, we were all punished, but we were never saying. And she was angry. But once I could hear her saying behind the door, I was saying to her friends, well, I'm hungry because I never know who is responsible or guilty, but in a certain way, I'm very happy because I can see that they have a great solidarity, my children, and they never give the name of the guilty one. So I think I have succeeded, and in this, it's a side, it's a good. I'm very happy. In another hand, to see that, even if sometimes I'm hungry, not to know who is the one who has done the wrong thing.
Yes, she was a wonderful woman, a wonderful mother. And I congratulate you on just being you. And thank you so much, Brian. So, welcome to INNERview. I'm so excited to interview you, Ilana Navaro, the filmmaker. So, Ilana, please, you were born in Turkey. You became a journalist in Turkey. Tell me your journey as to how you came from Turkey as a journalist and you got interested in the story of Joséphine Baker.
Well, it's been about 20 years now that I live in France. It's true that I am from Istanbul. In fact, when Joséphine Baker, the subject of Joséphine Baker came to me, it was through my producer. At the beginning, I was a little bit feeling ambivalent about it because Joséphine's image, like for many, was a little bit of, I had an ambivalent image of her, like everyone else. I thought of her as mostly in relation to her banana skirt, about her compliance with racist imagery. I felt like it was going to be difficult to treat the subject. When I was seduced
why did you think there would be difficulty?
I wasn't sure about how I could treat her in a right way in the beginning, because I didn't know her story that well myself. When I started being seduced about her story is when I started reading about her memoirs, her very early memoirs. 2 years as to when she arrived to France, she started writing about her own story. And that's when I realized her way of looking at how others looked at her. And that's what seduced me most, because I understood that there was some incredible material there about her talking about being a very famous person, even if it was related to some sort of racist imagery. She knew how to take that and to sort of do something else with it, to be a star in a way that's not just that. And
I understand. I have to ask you a question about that, because when you say racist imagery, that's a very important statement. And I want to make sure that we understand it exactly. Do you mean the fact that she was very sexual in her dressing and suggestive, or the
No, I mean just that here in France, at least, at that time, and probably now too, many times people talk about monkeys when they talk about Black people.
Oh my God, I didn't know.
Yes. That at the time, that was the way it was seen, right? So then that's how the way Joséphine was critiqued at the time by people who hated her because of her skin color, we're talking, right? Is that they were saying, look at them. They dance half naked and like monkeys, right? So the fact that she actually took that image on and she danced with it was probably seen definitely by many, including some African militants in France at the time, as very degrading for Black people.
But she did it to throw it back in their faces, and that's why the bananas.
That's what she did, right? That's what that. Yes, that's what she did. But in fact, she, that image still stuck with her for all her life. So, including now, you will see a lot of people who will criticize Joséphine for that. But you will see even now today in France, you will hear many Black stars in France being asked on the street when being asked when they audition if they know how to cross their eyes as Joséphine, or if they know how to dance with a banana skirt just because they're Black, right? So that's still a very racist imagery that keeps coming on, even though she was much more than that. But people don't necessarily know it. And so even people who take her as a model can have ambivalent feelings about her. I mean, it's a whole, what my documentary did here in France is sort of something very new for the French people as well. Because there was the way we saw Joséphine that was full of dust as well. We didn't see, we remembered her only with that. We didn't remember her as much with her being a resistant. We didn't remember her as much being with her rainbow family. We wanted to remember her only with the banana skirt. And that in itself is racist.
No, I understand that. So as you were entering her story and you started understanding from her journals how she took the status quo in terms of racism and decided to make people see something different by confronting it, where did you go from there in terms of the storytelling or the research that you did? Tell me a bit about your journey from there.
Well, once I realized that she had her own voice in this whole story, and that she had written her memoirs many times throughout her life, I started tracing slowly her awakening. First, her awakening to the place where she was given, to the place that she was put. Then her awakening that she was really a star, and the first Black star in history.
Right.
Then there was a real line of awakening, in a sense of awakening to her power, to what she can do with that. First, right. She probably felt overwhelmed by it, so she played with it as much as she could. This woman, we're talking about the woman that was most photographed in her time. We're talking about a woman who everyone who came to visit Paris went to see in her shows. She was the face of Paris. She wasn't even French. She was African American.
Yeah.
It's incredibly fascinating to even think about it today. We're seeing how come when you come to France, why does an African American woman is the face of Paris? How is that possible, right?
But that actually helped Paris, because at the time it made Paris be considered much more contemporary and
right.
culturally diverse.
Exactly. So that's what's happening. What I tried to do in the documentary was to put back to back the way Joséphine image was, how people saw her, and the way she saw other people, and the way how she saw other people seeing her, and how she manipulated that to do something else with it. Something
right.
else slowly what happened is that she understood she had the power to change mentalities with her being, with with her actions, with the scandals she created. So she went on to selling people what they wanted, throwing it in their face, but also doing something even more, like changing that image, and to, for example, in a way that she took on. She was dressed by the most famous designers. She
right.
was a fashion icon. So people wanted to be like her. people wanted to have their haircuts like her, she made it fashionable in a way to have her skin color, because she was selling a product called Baker Skin and a product called Baker Fix for hair.
Right.
And so that was a big novelty for Europe.
The interesting thing is the evolution, her own evolution as she acquired more knowledge, you know, about the atmosphere, about the people involved. And her reaction was very pure and idealistic. And, you know, it's interesting, you know, I'm learning more and more about the children that she adopted from all over the world. And her son told me that when he asked her, when he found out, Mommy, you are dancing on television. And she said, oh, no, that's not me. That's another woman, Joséphine Baker. I'm your mother. And so there's a beauty in the way she took motherhood with such passion, and also teaching her children their own culture, so that she never would enforce her own spiritual belief on them. You know, and I found that to be beautiful and an example of what we should look at today. But tell me about some of the other moments or special moments in her life, or in her ability to conquer such a huge audience and huge admiration. What did you find out about her own personal life that surprised you?
Her own personal life. In fact, there's one moment that I really that I discovered later on that I couldn't put in the film, was too much detail. But in fact, during the Second World War, she was in Morocco and she was very ill. And she almost passed away because she has hysterectomy and a lot of complications. She was hospitalized many times, and she was always with her so-called assistant, Jacques Aptet, who was in fact a member of the French intelligence, who pretended to be her assistant so that he could go with her in her concerts and sort of go around, talk to people and bring out information, right? And travel, particularly travel, get visas as her assistant, etc., etc. Anyway, at some point, she was stuck in Morocco with him around, and somehow they lost touch with the Free French Army based in London. They didn't have any more requests of actions. Somehow, you know, Jacques Aptet was disqualified by some other people, I don't know. So they felt like they were useless, whereas they were stuck in Morocco, both of them, with a full engagement. They wanted to do things for the resistance, and the resistance didn't ask them for anything. And she was very ill, and he was desperate. He was thinking, my God, you know, what's the use of this? And from her very sick bed, she told him one night, you know, what are we doing here? This is in her memoirs, in his memoirs. He says, what are we doing here? What do you think the meaning of this is? We're in the middle of a desert. We're in the middle of a place that is completely, you know, why would we be here in normal times? We're stuck here. I'm ill. I'm almost going to, I could have passed away. And you know what? There is a reason for this. So the reason is we're not going to wait anymore. We're going to do our own thing. So we're going to gather information for ourselves without being asked to, and we're going to help by ourselves without being asked to. So that's how came the idea of Joséphine organizing concerts through all of North Africa, through the Middle East, by her own means, to try to gather money for the Free French Army. That's how the idea was brought up.
So, Ilana, you know, I'm so fascinated by the story, by the movie, and we have the premiere this weekend which we are very, very excited about. We're getting a lot of great press on it, and the reviews are unbelievable. And, you know, up to now, you've done different kind of documentaries. You worked with Arte. Where do you want to go as a filmmaker now that you've created this phenomenal piece of work? And
Well,
you brought to life a hero of our civilization, you know, both because we're going through a very difficult time now in terms of racial differences. And you have brought to the forefront somebody who is a hero in that, who shows what can be in humanity. So where is this taking you? What are you interested in from this point on? And how did it change your life?
Well, it's interesting too. I actually took a lot. It was the first time I'm making a film based practically only on archival material. And it's a real eye opener in a way that how we can see and read the images of the past differently, depending on where we are, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's where I'm going to go. I think I definitely would like to continue to do that. That is, to tell stories about history that change our perspective. But based on how we can, that change the way, that make us realize how we misread it. That how history was told to us in a way that we didn't see what was there differently. So yes, I would definitely like to go on telling stories about the past in a way that makes sense differently to us now, that gives us sense of how even our gaze was colonized or was, you know, was controlled by the way we were raised. So,
yeah, the interesting thing, you did that with this documentary, this film, because, you know, when you look at the history of Paris, the history of France at the time, and you look at Joséphine Baker, it kind of comes together, making Paris the most contemporary, provocative, modern city in the world. You know, and in fact, there was an underline of genuine racism. So in your work, you were able to reveal that and show how one person confronted that, which makes us all feel like there's some things we need to do, and it only takes one person to really break through some barriers that we think are impossible. And you did that with this film. And so I'm really happy that you're going into history to do more films like that, because we need to look at our history in order to understand where we are today. And I congratulate you so much for doing the work that you're doing. It is truly a privilege and an honor to help you show your work to the world. And I can't congratulate you enough.
Thank you very much. It's an honor. It's an honor that you project. You show Joséphine in the United States, and you know, we've been waiting for that moment for a long time.
Yes.
We wanted Joséphine's story to be heard also in the United States, not just in Europe.
Shondrella, oh my goodness, I am so happy to meet you and welcome to Cinémoi.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited to be here. Thank you. And it's my humble honor to meet you as well.
Oh, but I have to tell you, this is a very special moment for us in this world. It's also a very special moment in media and everything that is happening around us. But particularly, we're going through such a difficult time with the racial division in this country and in the world. And sometimes we have to learn from history as to who do we need to look at or to look to give us a sense of the kind of leadership we all need to get to a better place. And one of those people, obviously, is Joséphine Baker. First of all, she was the first and biggest global African-American star. And secondarily, you know, it's interesting because she took racism, because when she got to Paris, they used to call Africans or African-Americans monkeys. So to confront them and to confront racism, she even danced with the banana skirt. And she became the face of Paris and made Paris and France a much more contemporary and much more international and with racial diversity. So she stands as one off in this entire world. Now, knowing that, please, if you could tell me, what was it about Joséphine Baker that captured your heart?
Wow, what a great lead in. First and foremost, I concur with everything you said. It was such a humbling experience to even watch the journey. Obviously, she was before my time. And so a lot of the information that I may have known wasn't, I guess, was as flushed out as this wonderful story. I mean, this documentary was just fantastic. It brought into me a spirit of aliveness in such a way that as a Black woman and an entertainer, you know, standing for something so principled and so confident and uninhibited. And for me, the one thing I took away from that was her ability to stand stealth in her position, even if many of those aspects were introduced to her vis-a-vis someone else, or just the nature and the naturalness of us having God-given talent of the exploration of body. And for that, you know, especially as a Black woman, we're very alive, if you will. And not to say that anyone else is not. There was something about this documentary that watching her envelop this talent and this God-given gift that she herself really was like, look, I really, you know, just got on stage and just let myself go. And so to have the spirit and be cognizant that her essence, you know, really transformed a people into even making it a point of a statement like the bananas. Yeah, that you called me a monkey, I'm going to embrace that. Because here's the thing, not any other monkey can bust these moves like I'm doing and actually still captivate you in such a way that you're beholden to me. For her to know to do that and use her power as a woman, as a Black woman, as an artist, as a storyteller, and to make a mockery out of something that should have been degrading, but it was not. She took it and she made it a powerful statement. And as a result, she's iconic because of that. So, I mean, I could probably go on and on and on about every aspect, but just the nature of that alone, when people are poking you, because that's not fun to be mocked at and to be called an animal when you know that you're a human. That's not even appropriate. But she's like, and pay the lady, and pay the lady, and take this and take that, and then pay me. So it's just wisdom. I would say more than anything, she evoked wisdom. And for a Black woman in Hollywood, I can totally respond to that. Stand on your spirit and stand on your gift, and then pay the lady and respect me. And people did.
Yes. Now, you know, it's really amazing because so much of what she did is so relevant to you. Because she came from a place of humor. She took confrontation and turned it into humor, both in her performance, in her being, and in her life. So I want to go back into your life. You started as a comedian.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me how you've carried it through your own career to be able to actually express yourself in view of where you wanted to go, both as a Black woman, as an actor and a comedian.
Thank you for that. You know, I'm from the inner city. You know, I had a lot of Joséphine Baker in terms of, you know, where I'm from is originally from South Central. I am the eldest of 10 children. On top of that, my parents were foster parents for a period of 33 years. So we've had more than 200 children in and out of our home in South Central and in different parts of California, as well as Michigan. And so for me, I, I guess I was always kind of goofy, if you will. And the gift of having, and I would say something like Joséphine Baker, being goofy or using your facial features and your splasticness to actually express yourself, I was uninhibited about a thing of beauty. And I think for me, you know, having such a large family, I had to entertain them, you know, to keep them quiet, to do the homework, to eat the food. And it just became a thing where, as I was always 10 inside. Like now, I mean, I have a niece and nephew and like they only want to hang out with me because I'm like totally like that auntie, right? And so that just transformed into doing stand-up because I felt at the time, I mean, I'm 6 feet. And so in Hollywood, it didn't really have a whole lot of folks. No, I wasn't Joséphine Baker in that she was the first one doing something, but for me as a Black actor, I went to performing arts high school, I went to school for theater, I studied theater, I knew that I had a big voice and I was also very big physically, aesthetically. I was a tall woman. I was very gangly. I didn't have the essence of pretty in the natural sense, but I knew that my funny and my astuteness to just be who I was, you were just gonna have to take it because as my mama said, ain't nothing they can do about it anyway, you still gonna be 6 feet.
So, you know, it's interesting because we had on Instagram, we showed all these major stars, Beyonce and I can't remember all of them, but so many of them have copied her. And the curl in the middle of the forehead and her whole approach to fashion, because as her face became the international face of Paris, all the designers wanted to dress her. And fashion became very much a part of who she was.
Right.
And, you know, what you wear is who you are. That was very true. And she dictated fashion for the entire world. What do you think, what influenced you about the way she dressed and the way her being spoke to you?
That's a great question. I love the fact that she dressed in such a way that was very opposite of what you may have seen her initially or thought of her on stage. Remember, we began by saying she's the monkey. So if she's the monkey and she does the bananas, right? But then off stage and then later to bring it back to stage in this high fashion glamour. So before there was Vegas and all of these other artists who clearly have emulated her essence and her beauty and her regalness, that she had a spirit of the ultimate glamour, almost First Lady-esque, if you will, right? What we know of Paris and what we believe, I love Paris. I can go there all the time. It's for lovers, it's this, it's that, but it's just the high fashionness of sophistication. And so for that particular era, for folks to not really probably think that a woman who had this goofy look and clownish behavior, she actually then became iconic for standing out above the rest. Whether it was in Paris or even here in the States when she came back, she showed Black people what it looked like to actually be regal and have a job and then have an essence, right? Because we can have the role that I may portray a particular character in a movie, but it doesn't mean that off camera you see Shondrella Avery not aesthetically dressed from top to bottom, like as if I'm walking runway, right? That's the thing to do because you want people to to emulate the essence of the sophistication of a race of people that have been otherwise put in shackles, right? Dressed in sackcloth and not really regarded as anything special. But if you look back over our history, we've always been a race of people who prided ourselves in dressing fantastically. We always have been, from the 1800s on the like. You can see the history. We always have dressed with regale. We always have. We're from a culture of Africa where they subscribe to the spirit of dressing very glamorous and most times ostentatious, right? But the ostentatiousness is actually a spirit of pride, that no matter what, you will follow what I do. I'm not following what you're doing. I'm going to set standards. And for a woman who at that time didn't have a whole bunch of friends that she can pick from, she just decided within herself, I can choose to be fabulous while still wearing these bananas, and you will respect that. And I just love that kind of freedom as a storyteller, as an artist, and as a woman of color.
But let's talk about you and your career. I know you've got a movie coming out that you produced. So let's hear about that and what's been going on with you career-wise and personally.
Thank you so much. So because of like the likes of Joséphine Baker and all of the peers and women who have come before me, I do recognize that, you know, this is a business of show and then business. And like Miss Baker, who had, you know, her product line from her longtime love, who was wise enough and astute enough to put her in a position where she can capitalize over just natural assets that she had, like her hair and whatnot, right? And so, and then everyone becomes popular and start cutting their hair, which I thought was so fabulous. But, you know, for me, I knew earlier on that even running comedy clubs, that it was really about me making sure that my career had the type of trajectory with the grace of God that could be universal, at the same time beholden to people to help people. It's not about me, it's about us. How can we elevate together? And so I've made Black and white films. I have a bevy of films that I still have left to make that I'm looking for more relational partnerships financially with, because it's not just about African Americans, it's about great storytelling, but I also want to make sure that we all have the opportunity to shine. And whatever we have, I always say, too much is given, much is required. So this platform you have, I thank you for allowing me the opportunity to tell everyone about Always and Forever. Of course, I'm on social media, Shondrella Avery. You can look me up. I stand on my word, you know, and I'm principled. I'm about helping and giving and being and receiving the grace of God, that I know that there is nothing that we cannot accomplish without us coming together, one and in love, and especially for us females. So thank you.